February 24th, 12:14 p.m. District Court, Courtroom Number 9. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Alana Skye. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, Bond. I'm just a man, same as you. Wanders through civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen to my person hard enough, you can hear the howl. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard it worth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? What do you mean? A desperado soulless spell as this debtor says. No pain can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime, in plain old English. Your Honor, I'm afraid I don't know old English, so this'll just have to, so this regular English will have, regular modern day English will have to do. Anyway, my job was to keep a wary eye on that old tree. They said I was supposed to beat the grounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, security room, the room was protected by 2 security systems anyway. I remember right that I was on the street side somewhere. Time you lived in. I'm just some traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your bear peep. Don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even cowfolk like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines, or following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. The day of the crime.
Hold it!
How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still, even time doesn't know. I was just a caretaker who turned the recordings. You turned them? Radios and military aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. Nothing unusual is recorded. Tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase the tape, it felt like I was erasing part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room.
Hold it!
But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado, I know it's rules game he's playing. No desperados I know join the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't say it was me and his for that day. It was a rubber love sucking the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. When is this guy for being fired? Okay, sorry, I'm having to refresh my memory on things real quick. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. I gotta remember things out. So that's... I already read that. You used to be a detective, so you used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a goldmine of evidence. And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner. I need good machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite, incredible. This is a little awkward. Your handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. This is a detective. Don't you said something like that, too? At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place?
Hold it!
What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even angel steak looks just can't beat that harmless Sapia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually what Edward says. Did you not want to raise this year?
Hold it!
Ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner. Or as you call it, FTs. If you plan to pin me to this crime, you better drop. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My seal horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. Everything seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Chances don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently none of their superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card listed, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I better up the ante.
Hold it!
Do I press here? I'm trying to remember, because you had to press before you can present. I remember that much.
Hold it!
Same thing as before. Okay, I'm going to...
Objection!
Here we go. Officer Marshall, does it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. This will be good. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, I pay my rounds about once a month. It's only natural, my finger.
Objection!
My objection clicked! But I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness! What's the meaning of this? Pardon me, I just ate. And I'm carving ever so slightly. Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away. However, all tests clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall, it seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on their shoulders. I think you do have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. How about the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be that empty in this room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained hand. The murderer touched the lock where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or did you know your gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. The witness's explanation appears valid. Although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. It goes right here? So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine, it's the mystery. Please explain. My locker's covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened. Hang on a second.
Hold it!
Because we had to get him to reveal that it was his locker. That's because how did you put it? Pay your spets once a month? Yeah, that's right. That locker had a smooth mind. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used to use when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, those are even broken dreams. I see. Evie Strange my prints worked all over their locker. He's been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Fingerprints updated before.
Hold it!
The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances that are not happening are not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Give one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me, even with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
Hold it!
Unrelated. They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with brightness while the other's a type of murder. He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this.
Hold it!
How did you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that one too. So That would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's an only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This sea of blood in the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. Security tape? So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. And here, we got you! What do you mean by that? I accidentally skipped the dialogue before, but it was something like, too bad you can't prove it was me in that film. Anyway, you want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct experience you had. But that video is necessarily useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught. Objection! We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall is present, please do so now. I can prove it. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness. Officer Jake Marshall. Oh. I have a hair on my... and some dust on my bottom screen.
Take that!
The cloth is sticking out of the locker. Bring our attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum it up of what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witness's opinion. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh! The white cloth! It's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! You'll see that I'll hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what about my exposed? That don't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he had to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man, even though the whole fingerprint thing was just explained to me? It's a real wonder how I may have been made detective. This guy isn't just plain dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah, I call you good. You say I opened that locker. Now prove it. Here, the locker. Only assigned detectives prints can unlock it.
Take that!
Fingerprints, same sword. We talked about this earlier today. And by earlier, I mean like 5 minutes ago. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Ghost, you did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't bad obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Now we go for you, partner. No! Order! 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 Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us, what were you doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime? Ole! Please, answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's right, Officer Marshall. Pardon me, I'm scooting slightly closer to my microphone. But I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Is this good enough? I hope so. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There? But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous! Officer Meekins was the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. I entered the evidence room and asked him to show his cards. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? I saw them on a knife on me! Something puzzled me about the officer's story. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would realize the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to bring the detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. Can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. about this. I can't say I care for your beef, but you don't see me like. Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of doubt that Officer Marshall dressed as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, but it seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Ack! This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance that it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's arguments, Officer Jake Marshall and the prosecutions, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to look inside. So, what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence that this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security cave. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker and put the white cloth away. Please show us the blood on his coat that we've seen about 30 fucking times already.
Take that!
Is this good enough? For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Now then, Officer Marshall. Are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Also, let me make sure my audio is recording, because I might have screwed up and not hit record. Okay, I did. Alright. It seems the time has come. Excuse me, I burnt. You can strike that from the record. But I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like it. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5 15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. That was way too much blood for such a small donation.
Hold it!
Hold it, Clish. But when you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? Yes, all 9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with Bishop's will. That day, I apologize for the yawn. I don't know where the hell that came from. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. Also, I completely understand the audience. It's been a day for y'all. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective will go through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why
Hold it!
Why'd you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for sealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. Remember Detective's ID card? I stole that morning of the incident. So that really was when Goodman started filling out that lawsuit item report. I returned his card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office pocket locked. The ID card I found was up there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. Because the rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. Which isn't on the card log.
Hold it!
You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder demanding to be shown his ID. A lot to think of the funeral, but his raised this year. And it had with so much influence. Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting his line. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. Oh, wait, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one here? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
Hold it!
So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. Security tape is arranged ever since hours. That's planned, no However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, she would be I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is that on that day...
Hold it!
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edward, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. This locker's already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense! Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't be just forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
Hold it!
I can't just forget the SL9 incident, you know why? But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored at the evidence room. Joe Dog was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dog case. It involved serial killers, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something no death without trial. Something no one will talk about. What's happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him what I think his real reason is. I feel like we'll find out here sooner or later. One involved here is in some way related to that case. I better take a look at the files. Alright. And as we saw before, and I hopefully acknowledged, SL9 files, boom. Neil Marshall was the last victim of the Joe Dart.
Objections!
Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I know they say it'll quench you, but I promise you it's the quenches, but I promise you it is indeed a trap. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the prosecutor's award. No, I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murderers with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police. The detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. When my brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could beat him in a fight.
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 incident could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. The murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. And it's at the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office. This fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So, if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial! Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remains the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
It seems to me this one's got the draw on you, partner.
All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case.
It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. There's a lot of room for doubt. Blood on this. Yeah, this trial is actually nowhere near done.
Well done, Mr. Wright. I see you. I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera tape really was fake, but I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for a verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant...
Your Honor, wait! Emma, the defense has an objection, a scientific objection.
Wait!
What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright,
Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please, hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any on loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident to the Joe Dart killings.
so this is why I got interrupted before.
She mentions it. Yes, both Sky Sisters were in that file. That's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I know his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only the one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
Did you find something?
No.
Huh?
Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all? Is there anything on this? Blood. There's traceable blood on this jar. This evidence in the this was evidence in the SL9. The blood must be from back then.
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. We can't find something wrong with them. Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. It's you!
Me? Oh boy! Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regard to the incident with the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright! I'm sorry I can't be of more use, but still! If you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, why don't we?
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have one.
Yes, Your Honor. If I've ever needed to concentrate, it's now.
What could have been wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Why were there 2 handprints?
Could there be something I'm missing?
Objection!
I object! This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been
staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that when drawn will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray. Let the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Well, very well, Mr. Wright. All this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing from the floor?
Take that!
Blue Badger Man? What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans on of this crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would have been impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? So that means, just what exactly does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, what'd you get over here?
On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room, right?
Yeah, and yet his ID card isn't logged here, so...
After he put it down, it would be impossible for him to leave a handprint on the locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in? Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom, despite all the other shit that's gone down in it. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, the police department's evidence room blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous! I refuse to accept your absurd claim! The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. Did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the crime took place? I mean, it was obviously the autopsy report.
Actually, it might legitimately beat the autopsy report.
This is the proof. It's quite simple, you see. It's so simple, then don't get it wrong. Huh?
If huh wasn't it simple, excuse me, what you need police?
First crime took place before the Blue Badger was brought into the room, right? Say, when was the Blue Badger brought in there anyway?
You have a chart with a bunch of times. Okay. Okay, I had to try that because it literally says within an hour and a half of 4 p.m. Okay, well, here for ID card.
If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card.
Oh! The ID card! Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room at, let's see, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place around that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Ah! Ah! Mr. Miles Edgeworth! Just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the dirt, boy.
Not the witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
No, I get it. I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the raw test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth into the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 7777777.
Talk about a lucky number.
But wait,
That doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7777777. I'm saying it like a phone number so I don't get confused.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP.
Find out whose ID number is 7777777. That's 172. Need your order. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What?
Explain yourself, sir.
The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge is filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge.
You're on the black art. When your coveralls and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
Objection!
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay, let me ask a question.
Yes?
No, not to you, to her, the defendant sitting over there. Your old little exit.
Objection!
What? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we will look up her ID number, and it's not 7777777.
Don't blame me for fool. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one about that incident. Yes, a mine incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. in that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana! I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't!
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana! Even if it involved forging evidence.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
No!
Order! 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 Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir. Chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial had to wait until the following day.
To be continued. I'm speaking a little bit loud because the background's loud in my ears. Next time on Phoenix Wright.